Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And I was laying in bed. I've been sick for like the past day and a half, starting to feel a little bit better now. But there were some class changes, and I wanted to make sure that I got them to you because I wasn't expecting them this soon. I thought that they were going to wait at least until after the first weekend of MDI before making them, but these changes are based on outliers in group content and in PvP, and will be going live with the scheduled maintenance on Tuesday, and they have hit a lot of classes. I wanted to talk about their impact. What is this going to really do as far as meta is concerned for the game? And if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. So Death Knights, you guys were a big outlier for performance. So what exactly is going on with you? Sand Lane, one of your hero talent trees. Pact of the Sand Lane now stores 25% of all damage dealt into the Blood Beast, down from 50%. So this is a nerf towards PvE. This is going to nerf your AoE damage. I don't see this being a big deal in PvP because I don't think anybody was playing Sand Lane anyways. But Raise Abomination's melee attack damage is going up 30%. Again, it seems a little unnecessary, at least in a PvP scenario, right? I don't think Unholy DK is in a spot where it really needs more damage. But maybe this is going to help you out with your cooldown window damage, giving you a little bit more bite during that timing, as well as your Army of the Damned Magus Frostbolt damage is getting increased by 40%. So this kind of seems like a little bit of just fluff off the top as far as damage, and then this will likely make so you just never play Sand Lane in PvP. So honestly, not the I think what Death Knights were hoping for. We'll have to see in what types of nerfs come to certain classes that kind of on the food chain sort of devour you, that might help you. But I was hoping for a little bit more than this. This kind of seems like fluff. For Havoc Demon Hunter, you're getting 4% all damage increased. Not too shabby. Eldraki Reaver, this is a hero talent tree that's being played a lot more in PvP. Reaver's Mark debuff application can no longer be parried, so I don't think that's a big deal, at least in PvP. I think this has got to be like bosses have got to be the only thing that can maybe parry you. I didn't even know if parry was a thing anymore. I guess like die by the sword or something in PvP maybe, but 4% damage on Havoc Demon Hunter, you're not too mad about that. Guardian Druid is receiving a 5% damage increase. And that's why I think some of these changes are definitely more oriented around Mythic Plus. I would say like this type of change and these kind of fluffy changes, these feel like they're more oriented around Mythic Plus and less about PvP. But 5% on Guardian Druid could, the tank specs are kind of climbing up there. I feel like people aren't really paying attention to them. I've been playing a little bit of Brewmaster whenever my stream challenges me to play it, and it actually can do quite a remarkable amount of damage. So you got to keep an eye on these every once in a while because these start stacking up in a PvP situation. For Feral Druid, all ability and auto attack damage is increased by 3%. So 3% guy is back, but not in PvP. So they do not want to give Feral more damage, which I think makes sense, especially when we look at the power that Feral Druid currently has overall. So I think that's fair. And obviously in Mythic Plus, Feral was struggling, or else they wouldn't have done this, but 3% seems, I guess it's on every ability, so it should likely be felt at least a little bit more. Augmentation, okay, thank God this one's not going in PvP. Damage of all spells and abilities is being increased by 15%. Does not apply in PvP. Okay, so this spec's honestly ended up in this weird spot where it's just cheesy one-shots. I don't know if they just are okay with that. Like Augmentation is just a one-shot spec that Deep Breath flies through the air and they just absolutely explode people if they're remotely stacked at all. And then they're kind of just floating around the air, not really doing a lot if they're just okay with that. But obviously, they feel like they went a little too harsh on Augmentation in Mythic Plus, which is where they gutted it right from the game. I think its representation went from like 100% to 0 basically overnight. So this is them kind of like steeping that back. They wanted to take away their role as a support class and be more of a you just do damage. So this is probably part of repairing that identity. And obviously has no implication in PvP. For Frost Mage, I did not expect to see buffs for Frost Mage, but they are focused around the secondary hero talent tree, which I don't think anyone is going to play. But even with these buffs, the splinter damage for Frost is going up by 10%. Controlled instincts damage increased to 40% of the splinter damage, up from 30, and volatile magic damage is being increased by 25%. It might be worth trying, but I just feel like the instant Frostfire Bolt modifier on Frostfire Mage is just so massive that like little extra chip damage like this is it's probably not going to make or break anything as far as Spell Slinger, at least in PvP environments. Probably not going to be a massive game changer, but definitely paying attention to this and maybe like the modifiers of these stacking together. So it might be worth trying it, giving it a go. But Frostfire Bolt and the modifiers that enhance it from the Frostfire tree are just so strong that I don't know if you're going to compete with like an instant cast like 3 million Frostfire Bolt with the little splinter damage here that's coming through for Frost. Kind of seems a little bit like fluff. Rep Paladins, you guys are not immune to nerfs. Oh, wait, never mind. These are buffs. What am I saying? Blade of Justice damage is getting increased by 80%. Divine Arbiter damage is getting increased by 50%. And Final Verdict damage is getting increased by 10%, but not in PvP. So you guys are just getting nothing. But in PvE, okay, you guys are getting some Giga Juice in PvE. For Priest, as Holy, all healing done increased by 4%, but not in PvP. Would be wise. Holy Priest is just so strong right now as a healer. For Warrior, for Blade Storm, its damage is getting increased by 30%, but not in PvP. Slayer Reap the Storm damage is also getting buffed by 30%, but not in PvP. It's so weird because Blade Storm is so strong in PvP. I would have expected it to be strong in PvE as well, but obviously it's not because they're doing the same thing for Fury, buffing Blade Storm and buffing Reap the Storms by 30%. So these are likely all kind of just sort of fluff. I guess the Rep Paladin changes are not really fluff. It's pretty significant. Kind of just like fluff AoE changes for Mythic Plus towards the top portion of these changes. Now for PvP specifically, Resto Druid's mana regeneration is getting worse. It's going to be reduced by 75%, up from 70%, which I think is fair. I think it's already starting to become one of the best, maybe the best healer at the moment. Time of Need no longer has its healing reduced by 25% in PvP combat. So like emergency recovery, auto heals, or pres are going up. Energy Loop no longer has its mana reduced by 25% in PvP combat, and Verdant Embrace is just getting 15% more healing. So Preservation Evoker just definitely needed some throughput increases. You ran out of mana way faster than a lot of other healers, so evening out the mana by nerfing some of the stronger ones, buffing some of your throughput, focusing on your main ability, I think it's pretty decent. I think it's pretty decent for Preservation. For Mistweaver, mana regeneration is only going to be reduced by 35% in PvP, down from 40%, so you're going to get a little bit more mana regen on Mistweaver Monk. Feather Feet PvP talent now increases the duration of Lighter Than Air to 12 seconds, up from 6. Again, like maybe that's decent for kiting on battleground maps, but no, I don't think it's going to have any impact in Arena. Jade Serpent Statue Soothing Mist healing increased by 60%, and its duration increased to 14 seconds in PvP combat. That's pretty decent. That's just giving you like extra passive healing. More importantly, when you get crowd controlled. So this is honestly, that was a nice ability to target for Mistweaver, because that's their main weakness, is healing output when they're crowd controlled. So this will allow the Mistweaver to kind of just, preemptively anticipate which target's going to get attacked before they get polymorphed, and they can get extra healing on that target while they're polymorphed. So this is actually, I think, a really good change for Mistweaver to help them with their viability. You're also just getting 20% more Vivify healing, which might be a bit unnecessary. I don't know if Mistweaver really needed more consistent throughput, but these are pretty substantial, I would say, as far as Mistweaver. And I think it's good that they're focusing around the healers, because whenever you have even any of the healer specs that feel significantly weaker, I'm a bit worried about this one just like propping Mistweaver straight to the top, though. But if you have any healers that are kind of on the weaker side, then you're playing that weaker one. You just feel like giving up when you're in solo shuffle, and you get any of the healers that are good, and you're just like, oh, I can't win this, which is really bad, because being a healer in general just feels really bad with the structure of MMR. The likelihood that you go 3-3 is 50%, because the DPS can go 0-6 and 6-0, and that happens 25% of the time each. So it's not additive, right, with those percentages, but evening out healer balance has got to be a really important thing for them. So this is good that they're doing this. For Shaman, they're buffing Electrocute. So I don't know if this is enough. It's by 75%. Not sure what the current value on the number is, but I know it's really low to the point where people don't even take this. But there were eras of time in the past, like Legion, where when Electrocute actually did meaningful damage, and it just hard countered Resto Druids, just deleted them from the game. So if Electrocute can ever get to that threshold, then Shaman will be in a position where it just completely hard counters Resto Druid in that regard, especially for Resto Shaman. But now for Resto specifically, Torrent's bonus to Riptide initial heal is now 100% effective in PvP combat. Previously, it was reduced by 33%, so Riptide getting a healing buff. And the health of your Healing Tide totem is getting increased by 75%. These are two main core mechanics for your healing output at the moment, so these are very significant. And your mana regeneration is only reduced by 60% down to 65. So I think these are nice changes. The electrocute one is the one where they got to be a bit careful, because I definitely think it was nice to have that type of mechanic. Like, this is where you feel special as the shaman, but if you go too far over on the edge, like, it's a really tough line to walk. So maybe going slowly, but remembering to continue to buff it up as time goes on, because otherwise some PvP talents just end up being completely dead for literally years, where just no one takes them ever. So consistently, buffing up those ones I think is wise. But overall, I think these healer changes look good. For Enhancement Shaman, the healing bonus from improved Maelstrom weapon is now 50% effective in PvP combat, was 25%. So it's like a 25% increase to your healing. So it seems like with Enhancement, they like the drawbacks of you being really melee restricted, as well as no Mortal Strike, and they're kind of just turning you into a double healer. They've buffed your healing, I think, on like every single patch up to this point. I don't know if that's where Enhancement Shamans want to be. It's kind of making you feel like, I think it's Thrall from Heroes of the Storm, he's like an Enhancement Shaman, but he heals, he's a support. So it's focusing a little bit more heavily on the support side. Dangers of doing this is that if it ends up making teams feel like double healer, I think that's not going to be really good for the game, because you just end up being like a tank spec. It's definitely a unique way of going about buffing Enhancement Shaman, as opposed to just homogenizing them. But I'm a bit worried about the long-term ramifications of making a spec a secondary healer, and also the trade-off of you lose a lot of damage to have to use your Maelstrom like this in order to get healing. So it's probably not exactly what Enhancement Shamans I think we're really wanting for an update. For Retribution Paladin, Luminescence is now increasing Lightbearer's healing only by 150% down from 200%, so a minor reduction overall healing. Probably makes sense for sort of passive healing, especially in battleground situations. Your Blessing of Sanctuary is going up to a 60-second cooldown. Ret Paladins didn't press this and shuffle anyway, so this doesn't really matter, I guess. Gleaming Rays now increases Holy Power spender damage by only 10% down from 15%, so they felt like they went a little bit too far on buffing the spender damage. I think this is like a slight appropriate tweak down for considering how strong they were and the representation that they were starting to get. I think this is a very modest reduction to their overall strength, targets their utility, off healing, as well as the damage. For Holy Paladins, Denounce is going to do 100% more damage. Again, there's like these cheeky spells like Electrocute and Denounce that could have situations like maybe this counters a Fury Warrior. It stops them from critting the whole time. It's a little bit tough to like cycle in Denounce and actually successfully cast it off, but definitely kind of like more cheeky abilities that are unique to those healer specializations. And honestly, I think it's fine that they didn't really touch anything else, because I think Holy Paladins kind of slept on. I think bringing down Resto Druid like they did, and looks like what they're going to do for Holy Priest, is probably going to get them closer to Holy Paladin than really increasing Paladin by too much. Whereas like Mistweaver and Prez and Shaman were definitely like a little bit lower in that regard. So Holy Priest is also having its mana reduction. Mana regeneration reduced, sorry, I'm tired and sick, from 55%, and this is up from 50. I think that's fair. For Affliction Warlock, Rampant Afflictions is now only going to decrease the damage of unstable afflictions by 45%. It was previously 60. Is anyone running Rampant Afflictions now that you have the set bonus that lets you AoE of UA anyways? I don't even know if anybody's really doing that. But they're buffing the backlash damage as well for unstable affliction to 20%. I like that. I really think that Affliction Warlock should be the dot class that you like really have to consider dispelling against. Like, it's going to be really dangerous for you, because so much of their damage is built into that. It's already so annoying to cast your dots and actually get a row of dots out anyways in the game right now, that if you can just dispel it, you get put back behind like 5 globals and through like 3 interrupts, and there's no real significant loss to that. So I do think that's good. This one I'm not too sure, just because I don't think you even really need this one now that your set bonus AoEs your affliction, your unstable affliction anyways. But I would rather be able to just multi-dot unstable affliction at all times regardless without a talent. Personally, I kind of missed that playstyle for affliction. But maybe with the backlash change now, and you can cover UA on multiple targets, maybe there's some type of like rot synergy that could be built from this. I'm thinking that's kind of unlikely. I'm thinking it's just this is kind of nice for healers that like spamming Dispel a little bit too much. For Warrior, okay, so they are going after Shattering Throw and Wrecking Throws. Damage increase to shields, it's 30% less effective. These abilities were hitting like 6 million plus, so that's a lot less. That's a lot less. It's still probably going to hit really hard, but it's a lot less. This is one of the things that was just completely deleting Warlocks from the game. Not to mention that if a Warrior was on you, period, it was deleting you from the game, but then like one of your main defenses just didn't exist. So this is kind of a survivability buff to Warlock, nerfing this from Warrior, and as well as nerfing other things. But looks like you're not just only getting nerfs. Execute is getting increased by 20%. I'm very surprised to see that for Arms Warrior. Show No Mercy, though, now increases the critical strike chance and damage of Execute by 5% per stack. So I think their goal with this is reducing the RNG so that your Execute is more consistent and hopefully will hit still decently hard. But if you're getting insane RNG, it's not just going to one-tap somebody from 50% health, which I think that makes sense. So addressing these, because that was just way too much on a shield break, and then making Execute more consistent, I think that's fair. For Fury Warrior, this was another one of like the top represented melee. Your Slaughterhouse Mortal Strike effect is only going to last for 12 seconds down from 20. That's a significant loss in time. You're pretty much not going to be able to get this on multiple targets unless maybe you're playing Mountain Thane and AoEing against targets that are stacked. I think it's going to be close to impossible to actually keep this up on multiple targets. If even on one target, man, 12 seconds is not a lot. 8 seconds off of that, which makes sense because this is the main reason Fury is significantly better than Arms, I'd say, is the Mortal Strike effect. But I'm worried that whenever Slaughterhouse gets nerfed too much, Fury completely disappears from the game. We've seen that in multiple previous patches. But I don't know if this nerf is as significant as the other ones in the past. Show No Mercy now increases the critical strike chance and damage of Execute by only 5% per stack, down from 15, so the same thing. The RNG around Execute, but it looks like they also think that Execute just does too much damage, period, because they didn't compensate your Execute at all. So Arms Warrior likely has the stronger Execute now, and the Mortal Strikes are going to be more competitive with each other. Strength of the Mountain now increases the damage of Bloodthirst and Rampage by only 25%, down from 37% in PvP combat. So that every Mountain Thane and the Execute build for Slayer as well. So Fury, these are pretty significant. I am worried that this might knock Fury completely out of existence, or we see a shift possibly to Arms Warrior. These nerfs to Warrior definitely prop up Warlocks and Death Knights and Shadow Priests, I'd say, are like the main ones that struggle with Warriors. But Windwalkers are still really good, and Windwalkers still pressure those specializations pretty effectively. So the fact that we didn't see like any survivability buffs to Warlock or to Death Knight, I think most notably. You could say Boomkin maybe needs it a little bit too, but Boomkin at least has like the mobility side. I think is a little bit surprising. I think that the healer changes are definitely seem like they're all in line, should be really good as far as making more healers more competitively viable with each other. Warrior meta might just completely shift into a different direction. Ret Paladin, I'd say, was like a fair adjustment towards their damage overall. So decent round of tuning. We'll kind of have to wait and see it play out. Maybe the nerfs to Warrior will actually have big impacts on Death Knights viability, because this is again food chain, right? They're countered by Warriors. So maybe now that Warrior isn't as oppressive, like maybe the fact that the Mortal Strike might just completely fall off when you use your portal, right? Or if you use Chains of Ice and you're kiting a Warrior, they might not even be able to keep Mortal Strike up on you for any amount of time. So at least it's Fury. But if you're Arms, you're probably still gonna. So we might see a shift in meta to Arms. Frost Mages are pretty happy about this overall, I think. And likely Rogues are too, because Rets were like a pretty hard counter to Rogues. So this Blessing of Sanctuary would have maybe like seen a little bit more for Enhance. Because like this is just not really enough. And I'm curious to see what this Execute does for Resto Druid, as far as like a summary to the changes coming through. If this actually is enough that you're going to select that. We might see a complete shift of Mistweaver though. Like this is, I don't know how much of this is going to impact it, right? Because it's going to last longer and it's doing 60% more healing at all times. So could see quite a big pivot, at least as far as healer balance, and I think Warriors are definitely coming down a bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this update. I'm going to go back to laying in bed and hopefully feeling better pretty soon. So thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one.